if I'm at the end of my life, let's just say, I think the average lifespan is around the 70s or 80s for women and men. I don't know what the exact age is. So let's just go on the assumption. I think a high percentage of people typically get that life. I know there's a lot of people that don't, but my point is when I get to the end of that life, I think one of the things that's going to make me feel good about my existence is if I can self-assess and say, I was able to have these character traits more often than not, patience, honor, integrity. So if I'm going to be able to do that at the end of my time here on planet Earth, the only way that's going to happen is if I have constant opportunities to practice those. Mm-hmm.
On today's episode, we have Ryan Luelf on with us today, explains his journey, his overcoming of cancer in his life, what his perspective is on life, what drives him, what his passions are, and really just a wonderful episode of his journey and how he operates today versus how he operated before his cancer. So we hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening.
2 million people a year are dying. I guess they're not having any good luck.
Yeah.
That didn't seem very empowering.
Yeah.
That sounds like you just sit around and wish that you'll live knowing 95% of people in your situation don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I was looking for something beyond that. And what I began to discover was that my perspective today is that cancer comes from us, from the inside. Mm-hmm. We are the source of our own dis-ease.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not here to tell you that I think anyone is creating their own cancer on purpose.
Right.
Or it's that it's your fault.
Right.
There's a difference in thinking something is your fault versus just understanding it did come from you.
Something.
I can be the source and it not be something I did.
Because it wasn't intentional.
Correct.
Not intentional, not by malintent, not by conscious awareness.
Right. But here's the best news about discovering that it came from me. If cancer, if dis-ease, if sickness, if illness can come from me, then that also meant vitality, health, healing, and ease and wellness also comes from me.
Absolutely.
So I began to get really excited. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I just need to know, how do I go on a journey from dis-ease, and how do I learn how to be a different kind of human that knows how to live at ease? Mm-hmm. And I had this sense and this trust that the body would then respond. So the signals that I was sending were putting it into dis-ease. Mm-hmm. And if I could reprogram and retrain and unlearn and send it signals of peace and health and wellness and vitality, why wouldn't the body heal itself and respond the same way? Because, if you break a bone, have we ever thought about this before?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody's got to pray to a deity in the sky. No one's got to hope and wish. No one's got to rub voodoo on their arm, right? You just literally go down to the doctor. They do an x-ray. They say it's broken. They're like, it's going to take 6 weeks to heal. They slap a cast on there. You go home. They say, don't do anything crazy. And what do we all assume?
It'll heal.
It'll heal and get better.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Why don't we treat dis-ease the same exact way? Mm-hmm. It's because we've been trained,
conditioned not
and
to.
we've been conditioned, and we have a misunderstanding. So I got super excited, and I remember in all my frailness and still looking terrible and looking like death and it not feeling like it was necessarily going in the right direction, but I had a sense that a major shift and transformation was happening on the inside. And I remember one night with tears coming down my face and holding my wife, like having my hands on her shoulders and looking her in the eyes and down her throat and into her heart and saying, Caroline, I don't know how I know this, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to die. And tears are flooding down her face. Her logical mind's like, how do you know this? I don't know how I know. There's just a knowing. And I just said, it may take a while for my body to catch up, but what I'm experiencing on the inside gives me this sincere knowing hope and thought, like, this is going to get fixed. This is going to turn out well, right? Yep. We just got to trust. 5 months after that, I was cancer-free. And that was in early 2018. And once I got my port taken out, I have not seen a doctor, been to an oncologist, or had a PET scan or any scan of any sort now in over 5 years.
It's incredible. Incredible.
Why would I want to be in that realm of consciousness? Why would I want to have scan anxiety?
Right.
Why would I want to look for something that isn't there?
You're going to assume there's no problem until something else comes to your attention, right?
And I'm in tune with my body.
Yep.
And if I really thought there was a serious issue, I'll go have it checked out.
Sure.
Right.
And I'm not afraid of what I'm going to discover. I would deal with it. But outside of that, I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to trust my intuition. I'm going to...
You're going to trust that everything is on par, right?
Yes.
Well, because you know the
further
formula
notice.
now, so it's not a big deal.
Well, yes. I don't want to have any pushback. So I think I would think of it more in terms of you just know what living at ease looks like for you. I don't want to define that.
Sure.
And I don't necessarily... There are times I think formulas are helpful, but I think there's
At
also
least for you.
Yeah.
Yes, but I
Your
think there
formula.
can be a tipping point where thinking then you need to project that onto someone else.
Sure.
And again, it's back to, just
I
follow this
know.
formula and you'll have this certainty. Well, there's a little more nuance to it than
Right.
that.
Right.
I want to live more in the space of like, these are the general ideas of how I perceive my healing journey. You take what resonates, and the real question is, do you have the guts? Do you have the courage to go deep inside of yourself and carve out your own path? And there may be elements that look and appear similar to mine, but you're the only one that can walk out your journey, because I was the only one that could walk out mine.
Right. Yeah, so when I say formula, meaning the formula is ease.
Yes.
Right? Not specific or anything like that.
And I'm not against
right,
specifics, because
right.
sometimes
And
people
there-
need a few
right,
specifics
and
to
there-
get started.
Right. And there are specific, you can get into the, like what comes to mind is Bruce Lipton's book, Biology of Belief.
Yeah.
Right? Your belief changed in that instant.
Yes.
And instead of producing high amounts of stress and cortisol and adrenaline, noradrenaline, which causes downregulation of cells, which is cancer,
Yeah.
right? You switch to ease in the form of gratitude and appreciation and love for life and care and kindness. And I don't know which ones, right? That's for you to tell me, but you switch to that ease and all of a sudden the body flips the switch the other way and starts producing the hormones of growth in DHEA and human growth hormone and serotonin and dopamine
Correct.
and oxytocin.
Yeah. And I want to just give like a couple quick practical examples.
Yeah.
If I'm at the end of my life, let's just say, I think the average lifespan is around the 70s or 80s for women and men. I don't know what the exact age is. So let's just go on the assumption. I think a high percentage of people typically get that life. I know there's a lot of people that don't, but my point is when I get to the end of that life, I think one of the things that's going to make me feel good about my existence is if I can self-assess and say, I was able to have these character traits more often than not, patience, honor, integrity. So if I'm going to be able to do that at the end of my time here on planet Earth, the only way that's going to happen is if I have constant opportunities to practice those.
Resilience.
So that would mean that I actually should be okay with tough times. I should be okay with things that are unfortunate. I should be okay with challenges because, there was just a simple practical example. I was playing a pickleball match recently, and I felt like the guy made an egregiously bad line call. And in the moment, in what I would consider firm energy, I did express to the guy that I felt like it was a mistake. And then I immediately let it go. And so a couple of rallies later, there was a really close call on our side, and I totally gave the guy the benefit of the doubt, and he looked shocked. And I thought to myself, that's because most humans, it would have been tit for tat.
Right.
So number one, being true to myself was in that moment, I did need to speak my mind to that guy. And if I hadn't, I actually wouldn't have been true to myself.
Right.
But what most people do is they get mad and then they get even.
Right.
Yeah.
And then later they have to live with the internal turmoil of knowing that that's not actually how they want to show up in the world.
Right.
So I actually felt, and we lost the match, I felt a lot of self-respect and a lot of self-love because I did the two things that I felt like honored what I really deep down wanted to do.
Sure.
I thought it was an egregious call. I said my piece, then I let it go, and then I didn't do any type of tit for tat. Because the spirit of the rule says if you are not absolutely sure the ball is out, the ball is in.
Ball is in. Okay.
And I have to role play that when I'm not playing to convince my subconscious to always react that way. Because otherwise, the ego and the competitive part of me on anything close is going to be like, that's tournament out.
Yeah, that's out. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right,
But I don't
for sure.
really want to show up that way.
For sure. Right.
Because I want to be as fair as fair isn't even, it's like an illusion.
Fair as
Yeah.
fair can be, right?
Yeah, but I want to be the person that's like, man,
Willing to give the benefit of the
yeah.
doubt.
And then when I do truly see it out, it's out. And I can, and even if they feel like I made a bad call, it's okay because I know, like, I work hard at that.
See, could you say it on the other side?
Yeah.
That's how I always watch for my team. I'm a big football fan. So when penalties are called, I'm like, would I view it the same if I was on the other side?
Right.
Would I call it the same if I was on the other side?
Yeah. And I mean, I still told the guy, great match,
Right.
tapped paddles afterwards. I'm not carrying any of that energy. Right? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I have to also, I truly got to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I don't know. Why make up a story? You know, one of the 4 agreements is you don't make assumptions. I mean, if he really thought it was out, I mean, and maybe it was. It's not like I was sitting there on the line with a microscope. You know, I mean, it's all happening so fast.
That's his perspective. Yeah.
But I think those practical examples. And then another one was earlier today, we were driving and I guess I kind of moved over in a lane and I was kind of cutting someone off, and Caroline like kind of hollered at me. And at first, my reaction was like to get upset. And I made a comment.
We talk.
When we go-
She does that all the time to me. I'm like, hey, stop.
Yeah. And so then it was actually, no, it was last night. Sorry, because we were pulling into the parking lot to go to the show. So then there was a little offset energy I could feel from her, but I had an hour and a half in the show. And I just kind of sat in it, and I didn't try to figure it out in my brain. I just said to, again, God, source, energy, universe, gut, inner being, I'm not here to argue about the interpretation of what that power force is. I just do my best to tap into it.
Right.
I'll leave that to other humans if they want to argue about who's more right than the other. I just think that's a waste of life, if there is such a thing. And I just said, wisdom, give me the right words. Like, I didn't want to just say, I'm sorry. That would feel inauthentic. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But just give me a way that when this show's over to reconnect with her. I don't want to take this any further. Let's just nip this in the bud right here. And so right after the show, just took her hand, got up close to her, and I said, thanks for looking out for me. That's all it took. Her defense went down. She knew what that meant. I don't want to fight with you. You were being a human. I was being a human. I didn't show up exactly in that moment the way I did, but this is how fast I can rebound. I honor you. And that was what wisdom gave me. And no issues.
That's awesome.
How much of my life prior to cancer would have that been a 3-day silent treatment over something so silly?
Right.
Or a week-long deal? Or a bone that you
Or
dig up
brought
later?
all the everything.
all
Or
the
tied it
stuff.
into other things? or made up a story about why she's always this way, or or why I don't really like her. I mean, you could take it as far as you want.
Sure.
And people do.
And people do, and I did too, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's
We all
why
do, right? Or we all have.
we all have.
Right.
And I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Nor am I even trying to be.
Right.
I'm perfectly okay with my imperfection.
Right.
But
That's a great way of
what a
saying it.
gift
Yeah.
being told at 35 that you only got 2 to 3 months to live. What a gift. Cancer for me is an absolute gift. I cannot imagine trying to continue my human existence under the thinking and the belief system and the state of consciousness that I was in up to the time that I was told I was about to die. And now to see how that announcement caused me to go to realms and places in consciousness that I didn't even know were possible or existed or that I had never imagined. And to see the moment by moment benefit that I get for how I get to live my life, how I show up, the way things happen now. The gratitude I feel is absolutely phenomenal. It's overwhelming.
It's a law of polarity, right? You see the other side of things, like how hard that was and how deep you got. You get to experience the equal opposite.
Man, I love you. This is it's so deep, but it just what you said. What a gift. Like if we could all, and I think that's where the joy in life exists, is if you can look back on the traumas, the things that have happened with a sense of gratitude because of who it created. It may not always be a cancer and 3 months to live, but, we all have our own story. My story, I wrestled with a lot of anger towards people that took a lot of money from me for a long time. And until I looked at that with like, you know what, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And that's a beautiful thing.
I mean, I was just getting ready to say, I still lose money in investments.
Right.
I've still had people take advantage of me.
Yeah.
My children have still gone through tough times. We still fight about sex, money. Like, I don't think you ever get to a point where you're immune
You're good.
to the challenges that just are part of the human experience.
Right.
But going back to kind of what we started with at the beginning of this podcast, I just keep reminding myself, I am capable of navigating it all. I can. And I will.
And that is a great affirmation versus I can handle things, or you know what I mean? Like that is such a ultimately positive affirmation of I can navigate all things.
Because the miracle isn't in your perfectness.
No.
The miracle is in your willingness.
Right.
Are you willing to grow? Are you willing to look within? Are you willing to find a new perspective? Are you willing to let go? Are you willing to push through? Are you willing to surrender? Are you willing? I don't know. Are you?
Right.
Am I? Nobody can be willing for me. Am I willing to let go of judgment? Am I willing to have empathy for someone who hurt me or harmed me? Am I willing to realize there's a lot of things on planet Earth that I don't necessarily care for, but I have no ability to impact? I'm not in control of. My friend Jake and I just launched our podcast, and it's called A Podcast for Humans.
Ah,
Nice.
awesome.
And we just recorded episode 5 the other day,
Yeah.
and it was part 1, and it's called Making Peace with It All. And the idea behind the podcast is that we want to leave you with more questions than answers, and hope that you get excited about discovery, nuance, awe, wonder. We want to take adults back into the innocence of what it was like to be a child.
Into imagination.
Yes. And to be in the ever ongoing question, what does it mean to be human? Because before you were anything, before anyone listening was anything, before they had a role, before they had a gender, before they had a label, before they had a religion, before they had a nationality, before they had a skin color, before they had a financial status, before all of that, you know what we all were first? human beings. We have that in common. So before we stir up all these differences and get into these battles of us versus them, which creates dis-ease, internal turmoil, what if we could remember that we're first and foremost all human? And we're all on some journey living in some aspect of that question. What does it mean to be human?
Right.
I don't know. But I want to spend all my days exploring that so I can extract joy. I can embrace my tears. I can leverage pain and challenges. And I can experience all that planet Earth has to offer while I get the gift of being here.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That really is amazing. You've caused me to think a lot. You just watch my face and I'm like, I'm thinking over here a lot, very, very deep, profound. One thing you said I want to comment on really fast is we're all human. And with the HeartMath Institute, when we measure the heart rate variability or the frequency of the heart at birth, everyone's is love. Wow. So if that's how we come here, regardless of where we came from, God, universe, created, wherever we came from, our starting frequency, when you go into the doctor's office at 12 weeks to test that baby's heartbeat, that heartbeat, we can, within 80% accuracy, tell the frequency or emotion of what that heart's producing every time it's love. Every single time.
Amazing.
So if we're all love at birth and we're not acting in love right now currently, then what do we need to do to get back to that ease?
Awareness is the path.
Right?
Awareness is the path. And then willingness.
Yep.
is the first step.
Yep.
Willing to potentially become a noticer that I was this when I arrived because I just found out some evidence. So why do I not embody that love?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe in the exploration of my humanity, it's like, okay, my environment, I was, programmed, I was conditioned. There's certain things that have evolved in society. They don't necessarily serve us well, but they're still there. I can't really explain them. But in my awareness, I can begin to go, oh, so my programming caused me to have these thoughts and these ideas, and so therefore I show up with these ways of being. But I wasn't like that when I arrived.
That's conflicting with the love that you are, the essence of who you are.
Yes,
right?
which would be...
because part of your journey was, as you were speaking to this cancer and asking what's the deal here, what can you teach me? You discovered, you can tell your story better than I can, but you discovered that when you were a little boy in church and you were made to feel like you were bad, that was part of, we'll call it emotional baggage, just, along with the emotion code that you carried through your life, that you felt this underlying emotion that you were unworthy because you had sinned. Or can you?
You're wanting me to do a whole nother episode now.
We're going into that. But that was one of the things you realized.
He was kind of wrapping up, and you're like, open up this other box.
No. I'm glad you actually said that, because I think I can say something that maybe then would just be an invitation if people are listening out there. Look, it's fine if you associate with a certain religion, if you have a certain belief that you were brought up in. I'm not here to put anything down. I'm not here to bash it. My invitation would be, if you weren't scared or afraid of somebody that you love pulling away their love and acceptance for you, if you changed your thoughts or belief around that, would you be more open to at least taking a look and seeing if what you examined caused you to potentially have a little different perspective? if you explored everything other than your spiritual religious beliefs, and you still have you have a knowing that inside there you're not at total peace, you still have some internal turmoil, can you be courageous enough to say, maybe it's in the one spot I've been unwilling to look at, and that actually can't really be truth because I'm not free. Truth of any sort sets us free. Truth of any source lived out puts us at ease. Beyond the ideas of right and wrong, there is a field, and I will meet you there. So we talk about it on a podcast for humans. We're inviting you on every episode to enter that field of consciousness and say, I leave what I think I know right now, and I set that down so I can be open for God, source, energy, vibration, frequency, whatever you refer to, that non-physical power that I think we all know exists on some level, to enter in and bring me awareness, bring me wisdom of something I've never considered before. And I'm not going to be attached to how that is channeled to me. I'm not going to, well, I don't want to hear it from so-and-so because I've labeled them as this. Or I'm not going to let this person speak into my life because they're this, right? No, I'm going to set down what I think I know so I can be open to a deeper, greater, better knowing.
For what I could know, yeah.
Yeah, and not so much at a level that is what I would describe intellectually, but more like the non-physical knowing. Like nobody can really give language to an experience. Right. Words always fall short. I mean, I can do my best, right? But unless you had really experienced what I've experienced, you wouldn't know what my experience actually was.
Like saying your journey was wonderful and amazing doesn't give it.
Yeah.
So if the phenomenon of God is what I would say ineffable, meaning indescribable, like how silly is it for all of us as human beings to think that we can describe the indescribable? How we could name the unnameable, how we could give, I mean, if you go to Japan and you use a utensil that we would refer to in America as a spoon, they don't call it a spoon. If you called it a spoon over there, they wouldn't know what the hell you were talking about, right? Is it still the same damn thing, though, that you use to eat your soup with? Yes. So they call it something else in Japan. Right. We call it something here in America, right? It's the same thing. And I am absolutely convinced that we are all essentially talking about the same thing. And we have a misunderstanding of how our brain works, of how our mind works, and how being a human works. And we are letting that create division. We are letting that create resentment, hate, dis-ease. We are disowning family members. We are writing off children. We are creating divorce. It's not that God hates divorce. It's all that comes with the fighting and the resentment and the hate and the jealousy and the arguing and the drama and the toxicity. Eventually, we store that in the body and it shows up in a physical way. Cancer or 1,000 other sicknesses or illnesses with whatever labels.
Every time.
Yep.
Every time.
Every time.
And what if we could discover that we might be arguing with someone about a spoon, but because they don't call it a spoon, we do what we do. Whew. Talk about an awakening.
Yeah.
70% of issues are miscommunication.
Right. So
that's a big percentage.
A massive, massive part for me and my healing journey was I wrote a suicide note in 2009. And one of the things that I learned in my cancer journey was that for as long as I could remember, I never felt good enough. It didn't matter how much money I made, how much sex I was having, how many nice cars I lived in, how big our house was, how much recognition I was getting. I mean, it didn't matter. I tried everything externally, And I could never get out from under that loop of you're still not good enough. And so when my life was on the line, it was like, I've got to get to the bottom of that. And so I just put it out there. Some people might call it a prayer. Some people might call it meditation. But I just kind of sent out a vibration, a frequency. And I thought, I don't even know how to figure this out, but I sure would like to. And I don't remember now how long it took. It feels like it was maybe a few weeks or month. And something came in my awareness, or like you could call it an audible voice. I don't really know. I'm just not so big on trying to describe it because, again, it's going to fall short. But somehow, some way, something in me said, you first became conscious of the idea that made you think you were not good enough at age 4. And I was like, ooh, 4. Okay. And then I was like, tell me more. Wherever this is coming from, give me more.
Yeah.
Well, at age 5, for the first time ever, I was raised in Christianity, and I was raised in church. And at age 5 is when I consciously remember going down to the altar for the first time and saying a prayer and admitting that there was something wrong with me, that I was a sinner, that I was bad, and that I needed saved. Now, understand, to the best of my ability, prior to age 4, I do not believe I had any consciousness, concept, or idea of that at all whatsoever. So guess how much effect it was having on me from 0 to 4? 0. So what changed? I became told.
Aware.
I became programmed. I became conditioned. I became consciously aware. And I believe from age 5 until 35, when I got diagnosed with cancer, I could never get away from that loop in my head. And I had lived 30 years. And no matter how hard I tried, no matter how many external things I did, I could never get out of the consciousness that I was not good enough. So then I said, well, then I've got to do some more research. I've got to go discover, why were humans telling me that? Where did they get the idea? Where did they learn about this concept of original sin? Where did they get the idea that people aren't good enough? How would you even measure that? How would you know? Does a certificate arrive in the mail that says, congratulations, you're now there?
You're certified to tell these children.
And then how do I remove that from my psyche? If I've had it for 30 years and I did finally get the certificate, what was it that put me over the edge?
Right.
How did I finally achieve being good enough? And what I discovered for me in my own history research and going back and getting enough information that I decided I was going to have a change of mind is that man made up that idea. And so I walked away from that belief. And you know what's so hilarious is people then will say, oh, you don't believe in God. I'm like, well, first of all, what are you even talking about? Like, first of all, give me a reference point on what you're referring to when you talk about the phenomenon of God, so I can even know where you're coming from, because they just think I think like them, right? And then they throw the baby out with the bathwater. They go, oh, well, if you disagree with me on this point, you must not believe anything.
Right.
And I'm like, I've never been more clear that there is a non-physical force and power, and I have never been more in tune with how to tap into that than any other point in my entire life.
Right.
But do I believe in your dogma? Do I believe in treating people the way I was taught to be treated? Do I believe in telling myself over and over and over again that I'm this and that and I'm not good enough? No. I put all of that down. Everything is permissible. It's not all beneficial. You have permission to believe whatever you want. Doesn't mean it's going to benefit you, right? And so I've been on this unbelievable spiritual journey that I'm still on, by the way. And I tell people, I hold on to truth with my palms open, whereas before I clenched them. And I say, this is how I currently would describe my level of understanding, or this is where I lean towards, or this is how I'm currently viewing it. But that might evolve, that might change. I'm really not too concerned with that. I don't spend much of my day trying to figure out how I'm going to articulate a question when you ask me, like, what's my theology? You know what my theology is? Live a great life. You know, follow the golden rule. and have a trust that it's all going to work out some way. I don't really have any way of knowing if it is or isn't, and there's no amount of proof that I can try to drum up. All it does is make me feel inferior to other people or superior to other people. And neither one go very well when you're trying to entangle yourself and do life on planet Earth with other humans.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what to call myself. I don't even have a label for it. I am a spiritual person. And I know that there is something. And I'm doing everything I know to do each moment of the day to live from that, to live in that, and to trust my inner being, trust my heart. I don't even know. And maybe those are the wrong words. I'm not attached anymore to how I say it, or if you say it differently than me, I'm just okay. The question is, are you at peace? Do you really love your life? And I'm not talking about having cush circumstances. If you're basing whether or not you like your life or love your life on everything being aligned and the categories all matched up exactly the way you want it, you're never going to get there. I'm talking about, do you feel gratitude?
Can you find purpose even in the hard times?
Yes. Is there a level of appreciation that I get to be alive? I get to be a human. Are you finding even that in a moment where you got to change a diaper, or you got to go through a tough time with your 17-year-old son, or your 13-year-old daughter, you're not sure exactly how to connect with them, or you're 0-17 in your last 6 tournaments on the pickleball court, or you're at a low point in your finances, or you're not exactly sure how you're going to turn around your marriage? Can you still find a perspective that says, but I'm still here? There's still opportunity. There's still potential. I don't know how this thing's going to go. I'm not sure if I can turn it around, but I ain't got nothing to lose. So yeah, I hope everybody listening has the guts and the courage and the willingness to actually put all of their religious and all of their spiritual beliefs on the table and say, I'm going to look at them once and for all to see if I myself, not what my spouse, not what my parents, not what my siblings, not what the people that I have in my business circle, not my friends, not what any of them tell me I'm supposed to think or believe. I'm going to put it all on the table. And the only thing I'm going to pick back up and chew on and eat and take with me for the rest of my time here is if it brings me freedom, internal peace, more harmony, the ability to empathize with other humans, to now be fascinated by people who see it differently than me, and to no longer need to be right, to no longer be jaded, to no longer carry resentment, and to go from dis-ease to living at ease. And there is no question in my mind that is an essential category for healing.
Amen. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen.
Did you have a script on that one? Because that was fantastic. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. I'm just soaking it all in because I love going deeper and thinking about these subjects, and you just made me think very profoundly. So I thank you for that. I'm sure the listeners will say thank you as well. But yeah, thanks for coming in town. Thanks for being here. It was a pleasure to get to know you. Even though we heard you, he knows our brother-in-law, Brandon, and Lexi very well. So that's how we got connected with Ryan. So again, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on. I mean, it's just always a joy and it's an honor and a pleasure. And the script is that the only way this can come out of me is I live it. Yeah. I'm embodying it.
Right.
Do I have moments where I still don't show up the way I'd like? Of course, I shared a couple of those.
Right.
But I don't need a script. This is something that I'm practicing to the best of my ability.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe you could bring in my wife, you could bring in my kids, you could bring in my business partners, you could bring in my friends, you could bring in people that I've even had disagreement with. And if they were truly honest, they'd say, I still don't see it the same way, But yes, he still acted in honor. There was still a level of trust. He still showed up authentically the way he's describing. Not perfection, but a willingness to say, I don't even know how we deal with this, but I'll roll up my sleeves and we'll work it out one way or the other.
You'll navigate it.
Yeah, I'll navigate it right back to that.
Finally.
And that's what, I was just saying that those last like 30 words were just beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah.
But I think that's the point, is your authenticity. You can tell. And when you show up in your authentic self, everything goes better.
It does.
Every time.
Well, I know it goes better because I actually like me.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Like I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Right.
You know, I estimated that prior to cancer, I'd said yes at least 1,000 times when I'd really wanted to say no.
We just did a post on that today about people pleasing.
Yeah.
And we have a Wednesday group call that we worked on that with an individual, and it was
Like a
eye-opening.
coaching in the group.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like for you to like me, but if the cost of that is that I have to be something different than just the real me at this time in my life, I've decided it's not worth it.
Right.
So I can be okay that if you just don't resonate with my personality, my current message, things I'm interested in, I wish no ill will on anyone, but we don't have to do life together right now. Maybe we circle back later, maybe we don't.
Right.
I'm just comfortable with whoever in this season resonates or likes doing certain things with what I'm interested in or involved in. And if you're not, I literally sincerely wish you nothing but happiness, joy, well-being. I mean, I'm one person. How many people can I actually even really do life with very intimately anyway?
Right.
Not very many.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
So
And the key is to be authentic and love your authentic self.
Yeah.
Right. So you can show up with yourself.
100%, man.
Right.
Because I'm the only one that's going to,
Right.
nobody else can be me. So I need to be me, and I need to
Right.
like me and love me and, all that fun stuff. So,
All that
Yeah.
jazz.
So good. So good. Well.
Any last comments?
Yeah, and I enjoyed the whole conversation. And
Yeah, I'm just smiling. This was just great.
I mean, I
Great,
think,
yeah.
and you didn't go on this journey with us, but that is the work that we do, is to bring people through that, to find those imbalances that are putting people at dis-ease, those old unworthiness emotions that you've carried through your life, and to help people get to this state, because it's just such a place of peace, and it is possible.
yeah, well, if I can ever refer people, a lot of people reach out to me. I don't necessarily enjoy or want to then try to dive in and get people from where they are to where they need to go. So maybe there's an opportunity where I can say, hey, I understand the work that was involved for me to get better. I'm enthralled in my life with my family and my kids and everything else I have going on in my business and entrepreneurial ventures. But let me connect you potentially to you all and say, hey, they understand the work. And if you start down that path, the path will evolve. Like if you take step 1, step 2 and 3 will be shown. If you then take step 2 and 3, 4 and 5 will show up, right?
Yeah.
You got to get started.
And you're driven enough to carve out your own path. But if you had somone that was like, let me help you see where these emotions are making you sick, unwell, and then it's like, okay, and support you through that process. I mean, you did it on your own, but now you know the back road out, so you can support people.
Yeah, I think my role that I feel best in is like, I think inspiration is what I'm here for.
Cool.
I want people to get so inspired they can't not look into this stuff I'm talking about.
Right.
But I'm not necessarily then the one that holds your hand and walks you through the journey.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I can accept what my strengths are, what I'm good at, and play the role and trust and know that God, the universe, has got other people who then are perfect to come alongside and give more of that ongoing support and guidance. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
But if no one is inspired to go on the journey, it won't matter how you could tell them how to go on the journey, and if they're not inspired to go on it, the how-tos do nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't
right?
matter.
Takes inspiration first.
First.
Absolutely.
So I think I'm here
awareness
to,
and inspiration.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes. And then I'm a connector.
Yeah.
So I love having resources. I love having people that I resonate with, that I believe in what they're doing. And I can know that on the front end, someone went, man, you've done with me. You've done something for me. Like I felt that, Ryan. Like I'm not going to be able to not. Like once you see, you can't unsee. Once you taste, you can't untaste.
Yes.
And I have people all the time go, I'm going to have to take action on all this stuff you're talking about, or it's going to drive me nuts for the rest of my time here.
Yeah.
And so they'll say, point me in a direction. So you guys can be a resource, and I can point people in that direction.
Yeah. Hey, I know, we teach this, but like you telling it to me, I'm in awe and inspired. Because when you listen to living proof, it's different than reading it. It's different than anything else. Is just sitting with you here in front of us. There's a point in the podcast, if you're not watching on YouTube, that you got a little teary. I got a little teary because you can feel that, right?
Yeah.
And that can't be described again. So no, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your energy.
You are an inspiration.
You are an inspiration.
Awesome.
I am inspired. So yeah. I hope everyone enjoyed that episode. Thanks, Ryan, again. Again, the Healing Works podcast, where we raise your vibration by opening up your heart and mind to new possibilities. Thanks for listening.